Hello and welcome back to the Red Brawl Project. We are so excited to be back tonight. Of course, we have another incredible guest for episode 88. I want to give a quick shout out and hello to my awesome co-host Daphne. How are you doing? I know you're prepping for a big show.
Yes.
Awesome. Your show
Stressed
is
out.
it's go
I
ahead.
told you I'm like the biggest procrastinator ever. So yeah.
So the show's on Thursday, so you'll be going all Wednesday night, right?
Yes. Yes. Tonight and Wednesday, but more so tomorrow. It's out of town, so I haven't had a chance to do any fittings or anything. So I'm going a day early so I can get all the models in for fittings and
All the
all that
good.
good stressful stuff.
That's right. That's right. Bring your eucalyptus candle, your peppermint tea, your oil.
Right.
Awesome. Well, we wish you the best of luck. And for our listeners who don't know, Daphne is a personal stylist and she just rocks it. She has some incredible branding and the way she connects the brand to the woman, it's just so powerful. Like it just speaks. So go and check her out. Your handle at Blends and Trends, right?
At the image creator.
At the image creator, Blends and Trends. I was getting your other one mixed up.
You're fine. It's fine. They both go together. Image creator is my tagline, and blending trends is the actual name of my business and boutique. Yep.
Awesome. Cool. All right. And back to our guest. We are so excited. This was a referral from one of our past Red Brawl guests. We always love connections. Shout out to Amanda. Thank you so much for connecting us to Danielle. And Danielle is going to share a little bit about her story with us. She is a personal brand advocate, a social media marketing strategist. She's a speaker, founder of the Chylinski Media, and we are so excited to be with you tonight. Please welcome Danielle Chylinski to the Red Brawl Project. Welcome, Danielle.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
You are so welcome. Why don't you start off by opening up by telling us a little bit about your story, where you're coming from tonight?
Yeah. So I'm sitting in my apartment in Weathersfield, Connecticut. I grew up in Newington, Connecticut. My family still lives there, but I ventured here during the crazy COVID times. Yeah, so I guess about me, I bring it all the way back to college. I went into college undecided. I had no idea what I wanted to do at all. I just knew that everybody around me was going to college. I didn't really have any older mentors that I knew that have been to college or were in college. So college was kind of really blind for me going in. And I just thought, I'm not decided. So I might as well go in with my major undecided as opposed to just committing to a random major and switching it a ton of times. So for me, I have just always like growing up just felt average at everything. And I was like, how am I supposed to pick one thing that I'm like good at and like commit to for the rest of my life? So I just got really involved in school with like class council and student senate and just doing more group activities, hosting events and things like that. And I always somehow was the person where they were like, Danielle, we need, a poster, or we need someone to put this on social media, or we need someone to help us with this bulletin board. And I was always the go-to person. I never even thought twice about it. I was always like, yeah, so fun. Like I'd love to do it. So I don't know, just like the whole craftiness and all of that was just something that I always liked to do. And I never really realized that it could translate into my life and an actual job after college. So I ended up changing my major to communication, public relations. And very quickly, people around me were looking at me like communication, like someone actually once said to me, oh, cool, like you're majoring in unemployment. And I was like, this is so sad. I was like, I finally figured out like where I belonged and who I was and what I wanted to do for the next few years in college and then after. And there was so many negative comments and perceptions around majoring in communication, because you think communication and you just think, oh, talking, cool, like you're going to pay thousands of dollars just to learn how to talk. So getting through school in that sense for me was interesting because my classes never felt like classes. I loved going. I loved doing my homework. I was always that person that would do my stuff ahead of time. People in my classes were probably like, oh, here goes Danielle again, posting herself early, but I just loved doing it. And once I graduated, I got a job with the Alzheimer's Association Connecticut chapter over in Southington. So I was working under the VP of communications there, doing everything from social media to website, billboard ads, TV ads, all of the fun things that really fit under the marketing, communication, and PR umbrella. And long story short, now I am working in sports. I work at the Hartford Yard Goats, the minor league baseball team here in Hartford, Connecticut. And really strange story for how this all happened. I actually was hosting an event back at my old job, the Alzheimer's Association, and we had an awareness night at the Hartford Yard Goats. And I got brought in kind of halfway through the planning for extra support to execute for day of and for the event. So once, we were there, we had the great event, everything was awesome. And I just followed up with the general manager and someone else there at the park and thought nothing of it. I carried on, did my thing. And at the time I was living by myself. I was trying to learn how to balance work and eating and working out and doing laundry and all the basic things that you don't realize you have to do when your mom and dad are no longer there to remind you. And so yes, funny, but sad and true.
So I have 3 adult kids that I still have to remind to take out the trash and stuff. So that's why it's so funny to me.
Yep, I was probably, I could fit right in. But yeah, and so I thought nothing really, of what I was doing, but I was posting a lot on Instagram. I was really big on Instagram stories. It was more of a way for me to just have fun with myself and kind of make light of the situation. I, was waiting for my couch to come in. I had no couch. I was sitting on the ground because I, didn't have a table and I couldn't afford chairs and all these things. And I was just posting about it and laughing and didn't realize that my personality and my personal brand was really being built in front of me without even knowing that that's what it was. And now the word personal brand, it's everywhere. But at the time I was just doing my thing. And I got a phone call from the general manager from the Hartford Yard Goats. And he was like, "Hey, Danielle, do you remember me?" And I was like, "Are you sure you have the right Danielle? This is Danielle Chylinski. Are you sure it's me?" And he was like, "Yes." He's like, "I've been following all of your social media stuff, from your personal stuff to your work stuff. And I'd love to have you come in and talk about opportunities here." So that was my random weird intro to the sports world. I had no business being in sports. I have no background. People always ask me what classes did you take in college? And I was like, all communication classes, all marketing classes. There is nothing in sports. I mean, people that I grew up with, when I told them that I was taking the job, people didn't believe it because it was that's how far off it was. But I quickly learned that minor league baseball really is more of the entertainment industry as opposed to sports. And it's really, how do I get every single person that is I don't like baseball, I would never go see a baseball game, boring, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. How do I get them to be oh my gosh, I need to be in this ballpark. I need to go there with my friends, my family, date night, bring the kids, whatever. So that's sort of what my job is. I do all the social media. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok now. I oversee the promotion. So in-game, pre-game, post-game, all the fun stuff that happens on the field. That's all coordinated by me and my team, the GOAT Squad. Also, I write our game day script. So every single thing that happens on the field during the game all gets compiled every day by me, all minute by minute leading up to the actual game. And it's just fun. I do all the fun things really. I oversee the mascots, the kids club. I just run around basically and just get really sweaty all the time. It's fine. I don't have to pay for my gym membership anymore. I just work. But yeah, so that's where I'm at. Back in January 2020, once the off season hit of the season, I was kind of okay, I just committed my whole entire life and time to this new whole world. I flipped my perfect 9-to-5 female dominated coworkers to crazy hours, mostly all men. I was one of 3 or 4 women at the time there, and just kind of flipping my whole life. And so once the off season hit, I was okay, what do I really like to do? What am I really passionate about? What do I keep sort of gravitating to no matter where I end up? And that really was helping people with social media, more specifically people that own small businesses, people that thought of marketing as, oh my gosh, I could never pay for someone to help with marketing. I could never afford, these companies and all of that. So I sort of structured it to be that way, and to talk to people and say, what's your budget? What do you want to spend on things? How can I help? What's the minimum? What's the maximum? How can we get happy medium? So you no longer have those negative comments of, oh my God, social media, it's so hard, I'm too old, all those types of things. So that's sort of what my business was or is structured to do. And I really kind of put it on the back burner. I did it for fun, kind of low key. No one really knew about it back in January, and thinking I was going to be working the whole entire season for the Yard Goats. And then COVID hit, and it was this whole awkward, okay, well, this is cool. I started a business, but no one knows. How do I introduce this to the world when people are sick, people are in lockdown, people are dying? And I was like over here, like really sad and really happy and just all the emotions. And somehow I sort of slipped it in casually somehow. I don't even know what I said, because at that point, I think we were all like delusional, losing our minds. But so yeah, so it launched, and then I was furloughed back in June 2020. So for me, it was kind of the awkward, like, wow, I'm really bummed and sad, but I really set myself up for this company that I didn't realize was going to be right here. Not to mention that the small businesses really are, you know, who I wanted to serve and who needed me at the time. So quarantine worked out for me. I thought I was going to have a fun summer. I was like, this is awesome. I finally get time off. Last summer, I was working every single day. And then it was like, nope, just kidding. You're going to be working 9 to 5 plus, but for yourself, deciding your hours, your time, your pay, all that kind of stuff. So that's how my end of 2021, it was just working for myself full time, all the way up actually until April of this year. I got the phone call back saying, hey, you know, we're bringing people back. I know that your situation's different. Not sure if you're happy or sad, or, you know, what your plan is. And at first I was like, I'm all set. I said, I've spent the last X amount of months telling myself that I have to keep myself afloat and I have to put myself first. And I was like, give me a day and I'll call you back and like actually say like, no, because getting, you know, away from that whole life was very hard for me to kind of just comprehend. And the next day I call up, I'm like, Mike, I said, I want to come back. And he was like, what? He's like, this is not what I thought you were going to say. Like, this is the complete opposite. Like, I know. He's like, I was planning for the worst and that this is awesome. Like, are you sure you want to do this? And I was just like, I need to be back with my team that, you know, got sent home back in March and had been waiting for this moment to get back. I said, I recognize the privilege that I had to have my business on the side and have the chance to make that thrive. But I belong back with my team to make this happen for Hartford, for Connecticut, for all the things, all the families, the fun. Like, it was just one of those things that I also needed for myself. I needed to get out of my house, you know, go back to people and just socializing to some kind of extent, even if it was distance and masked. So yeah, now I'm back there, I'm working. And I also am keeping my business afloat on the side. And it's been crazy, but it's fun. I feel like I'm totally in the right place of where I'm supposed to be in terms of the people I'm around, the energy and all of that. So it's really great. And I love doing things like this to share stories. So I think that a lot of us are just, so much crazy happens in the back end and there's not enough conversation about here's all the things that really go on to make this happen. So thank you.
Yeah, wow. And I told everyone listening this is going to be a great story. So thank you for sharing all of that.
Yes, you're welcome.
So when you oh, go ahead, Daphne.
So I was going to ask, and I guess you kind of answered to a certain extent. Your interest lied with the whole marketing and communications first, or did you pull that from what you were doing on social media? Just being yourself.
Yeah, so I didn't realize that what marketing or communication was at all until my sophomore year of college. I went into my career counselor's office and I'm like, my sophomore year is almost half over. I have no major. Like, what am I supposed to do? And she was like, well, how have you been spending your free time? So I listed off all these things and she was just like, Danielle, she's like, this is a major. Like, this directly fits under communications, public relations. And I was like, sign me up. Like, thank you. Because I've been overthinking everything, but really I was like doing all these things to fit into a major. And I think that for me, that worked out because if I had picked a major originally, I would have kept trying to stick to that and been like, this is who I'm supposed to be. So I sort of like let it play out for myself without really realizing. And I was like, this really is where I'm supposed to be. And it's just, I think that's why all these things have kept happening to me in a positive light, because I just kept my mind open to whoever I am and however I, you know, handle the situations. That's the directions that I'm going to keep following.
What a great question to be asked too. What do you do with your free time?
Yeah.
I mean, that really makes you think.
Well, it's funny because I tell my clients, and I've raised my kids, find something that you love to do and then figure out how to make money from it, because then it doesn't even feel like work. So the perfect question to think about when you're thinking about what you want to do with the rest of your life is, what do I do with my free time? And do I enjoy it? Like, what do I enjoy doing with my free time? And then you just figure out how to monetize.
Right. Yeah. And for a while I was helping out my CrossFit gym with their social. So I was like paying half my membership to do their social. In high school, I worked for my local chiropractor. So I've always helped him sort of throughout in terms of his social media for himself, for his company, for his book. So I just always randomly gravitated towards that. And the more that people were like, why are you giving all this time and stuff for free? I was like, oh, maybe this is like what I'm supposed to do for work. So it just kind of all, it just kind of came to light for me in that way.
Yeah, well, what I believe, I'm sorry, Renee, and I'm not going to go too long, but I believe when you're building, you do have to do some free stuff, and it's a great way of building up, especially when you're doing stuff visually. It's a great way of building up your portfolio and things like that. I mean, I've been doing what I do for like 11 years, and every blue moon, I still have to do something for free, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So it just kind of depends on, do you do this so that you can get to the next level, or are you doing it, but you definitely have to do it and it has to serve you a purpose if you're going to do it for free or barter or whatever. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's important. People got to understand, when you starting out, you definitely have to do some giveaways or something for free, because
Yeah.
that's the only way people are going to recognize, realize your work.
Exactly. Yeah. And right. And people have always asked me like, oh, like, how did you start? How did you like know where to begin? And for me, it kind of already started because I had 3 or 4 clients that I wasn't getting paid for. So once I started it and I kind of put it out there, I was like shocked and blown away by how many people reached out to me because they saw the need. And I was like, oh, well, here's all the things that I've done for other people. Here's how I can help you. So within the first few months, I already had 4 to 5, 6 clients that were paying because I had these examples of what I did before. I started my business with no brand colors, no logo, no website, no social media accounts. I mean, I was just like, I felt like I had to do it. And it was months of like October, November, December of like me overthinking, like, what am I supposed to call it? All these things. And then I literally, one of actually, it was my boyfriend, not the time, but he called me. He's like, hey, what's up? I'm like, do you remember like 2 years ago when I said like I want to start a business? He's like, yeah. I'm like, I need a lawyer that I can talk to get this set up. And he was like, oh, here's a number. And I literally called her, right? I hung up the phone. I called her and I was like, I need this business to get set up. I was like, what do I have to do? She's like, what's the name? And I'm like, I have no idea. I'm like, here's some random scribble notes that I have. And I've only talked to my family about it because I didn't want to, share it too publicly. And we went with Chylinski Media, and I was going back and forth. Like, do I want my name in it? Do I not want my name? My dad was like, no way, because if you get married or if it changes, like, what are you going to do? And I was like, right. And I was like, if we get married, are we going to change our name? I don't know yet. So, but the biggest thing was that me as Danielle Chylinski, that was my brand. I was me and I was fully my brand. So I was like, to have my last name in it, I feel completely comfortable. And I think that that's really the only way that I have to go that I'll be happy with, as opposed to a random name, because this was built because I was me. And even if it changes, if I get married and my last name changes, this is still who I am. This was who I was when it started. And it wouldn't have started if I wasn't Danielle Chylinski. So we're doing it. And I mean, yeah, it's been crazy, but it's all kind of done like winged and like on the fly, but at the same time it's all weirdly planned and just aligns.
That's a great point. I'm big on, especially us as women, if we're gonna pick a business name and we're gonna use our name, use your first and middle name or something that you don't have to worry about when you get married having to rebrand. Because when I started out styling, I was married and I was branding my first and my last name,
Uh-huh.
and I had to gravitate away from that.
Right.
At that point. So that's definitely, if you're gonna, as women, we have to really consider what name we're gonna use. Because I mean, just like marriage is a reality, divorce is a reality. So you may get divorced. Do you want to carry that name along with your business? No, we trying to let go of all that stuff. So, yeah.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, Danielle, you've touched on so many things. And
Yeah.
just to hear that you kept figuring it out along the way. You still do. And you're not shy about saying, I knew nothing about business. Like literally, I'm figuring it out every step of the way. What has been probably your biggest support and what has been your biggest challenge kind of going down this journey?
Yeah. I think the biggest challenge is people thinking that I know everything about business, about my business, about anything in general. I hopped on a call with someone a few months ago and she was like, oh, like, how do you go about bidding for jobs? And I was like, oh, no. I'm like, I don't spend time trying to get clients. I said, I'm just here. All I can do is share what I can do. And people that see the value in what I bring can come to me. I said, I am just not in the business of trying to convince you. I want you to convince yourself and then say, I'm ready to go. So I think that's the hardest, is kind of knowing that I'm doing it in a non-traditional way. And some people freak out about it. And some people are like, oh my gosh, I wish I like met you like 6 years ago. So that's definitely a struggle, but also a positive. And I think the biggest support system for me has been my family. We have our family group chat, my mom, my dad, my brother. My brother's 2 years younger than me. And they're the people that I bounce everything off of, and I know that I can trust them. So when it came to building this business and any other projects that I'm working on, I know that I can tell them the secret and they can give me feedback based off of what they know about me, what they know about my journey, what they know about just how and who I want to be and how I want to live. So they really have been my support. Without them, I mean, I definitely wouldn't, one, be who I am, but two, I would have gotten stuck along the way. And they just kept me pushing of like, if you really want this, like go for it. Like no one's going to stop you. And I mean, it's so funny because my family also is just not really so business heavy. So when it comes to business questions, like I always go to my mom for everything. I pretend my mom is like my Google. I never Google at anything. I always call my mom or text my mom. And she's like, Danielle, she's like, I know you came to me like when you were like, 5, 6, 10. She's like, but just so you know, moms don't have all of the answers all the time. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, my whole childhood's a lie. but yeah, that's been a struggle to have to learn that, when it comes to business questions about like finding a tax person or finding a bookkeeper, like my mom isn't the person. Actually, funny story off of that. My mom one day was like, how can I help like with anything business related? And I was like, I'm trying to find a really good tax person. I need someone that can understand that. I purposely did arts and science and avoided math in college because math is just too much time and too much effort. So I need someone that can understand that I get the numbers, but I don't want to look at any of them. And she actually made phone calls for me to random local and non-local tax people. And then she like landed like a perfect dream person. She's like on the phone with this guy for like a half an hour. And he emailed me. He's like, oh, I just talked to your mom. Like, what's her role in your company? And I was like, oh no, like that's just my mom just calling, like being nice. But yeah, I mean, she's been a huge support in my whole entire family, extended family, all of that for sure.
So let me ask you this. Because I dread social media. I'm older. I know it's a necessary evil in this day and time, especially as an entrepreneur and a business owner. What is your biggest challenge with being authentic, but also appealing to the masses?
For me personally, or when I'm helping people?
Both.
For me personally, I don't think about anybody else. When I'm posting, it's solely for me. It's how do I feel in this moment? What do I want to share? What did I just take away that I think someone else can take away from this? I'm never thinking how many likes, how many comments, will this translate to business? All the things. I'm always just posting for me. So, which is hard for a lot of people, but for me, that's how I've always used social. I've never been someone that's been trying to please anybody else or whatever. I just always was like, I'm going to post this. I'm going to post 1 picture a day. I'm going to post 6 pictures a day. I'm going to post at the wrong time. I'm going to get the DMs of like, oh, if you posted this, 3 hours later, you would have gotten better engagement. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm not living for the algorithm. I'm not here for the engagement. And I just post when I want. And I think that that's how it's successful in a weird way, because it catches people off guard. It's like, wait, why did this girl just post 3 Instagram posts within the last hour? Like, is she okay? But with that approach, and I think going back to kind of your question for you too, it's, you don't know who and how that post will hit. So I could think that both of you will see my post at, you know, if I post right now, that you both see it within the next hour. You probably won't. The odds of you seeing it, who knows, whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, anything. So I always think about, if someone comes on my page, or, you know, if after this podcast you add my Instagram link, when someone comes to my page and they're scrolling, what can they see and learn about me? What are they seeing that I'm doing daily? How are they seeing that I'm viewing myself, or thinking about myself, or talking about my job, or talking about my experiences? That's really kind of the social piece that people are forgetting. People forget that social media is to be social, right? People just want to see, they want to scroll, they want to whatever, share this, do this. And it's like, let's talk for a second. Like, let me have you come to my page, scroll a little bit, and be like, wait, did this girl just swear? Did this girl just say this? Did this girl just call me out for something that I didn't realize I was being called out on? Like, that's the things that I'm posting about, not because I'm trying to make you feel a certain way, but because I recognize that that's just how I talk. And I'm going to post like I'm talking to my friends or talking to my family, and I'm going to give the advice that I would give to myself, but I'm really just sharing it on there. And then in return, if I'm feeling down, or if I'm feeling like, oh, my socials, whatever, or I'm not good enough, or blah, 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 all the, you know, all the self-talk that's all negative, I can go back and scroll on my feed, and I'm like, okay, I'm actually pretty good. Like, this is really good. Like, I said this, like, what kind of vibe was I in when I posted this? And you know, it's more of a reflection piece for who I am and what I'm doing, as opposed to how can I get Daphne and Renee to, you know, call me and invite me on their podcast. So just kind of like switching your mindset and going against what everyone else really is seeing social media as, which is negative, which is I'm too old, which is not in my generation, or I don't have time for that. It's like, you don't have time for that. Really think about it as that's time for you, if you're caring about how you're posting in a certain way. For me, like, social media is like therapeutic.
Did you just say social media is self-care?
Heard it here first. Check back in like 10 years and we'll see.
I love that you took the social media rules and you just threw them out the window, because I think that is super intimidating to some people. It's like, I don't want to figure out the algorithm. I can't even say it. You know, I don't want to have to do this at exactly this time every day. Like, I'm not cut like that. And when we do post on Red Brawl, it's whatever time, you know, whatever works. You know, we always just wanted to grow it organically and not at the mercy of, this is what everyone says you should do. Make sure you check all the boxes, make sure you stay on 10 minutes after you post, and all of this stuff. Like, it's just having the interaction, like you said. And I think when you share that piece, for so many people who are thinking about getting into social media, or maybe doing their account differently, that takes a load off your shoulders, because I mean, that in itself is like a whole planning process if you follow all of the rules.
Yep.
And who wants to follow rules?
No. My favorite like saying from one of these songs, it's, I don't follow rules, and they don't like that. It's like the best thing. It's like, people get so thrown off when you're like, you know, I break the rules, I don't follow them, I do what I want. And they're just like, once they realize like that you actually can do that, and they're just like, oh, okay. And I'm like, here we go.
Yeah. I mean, not even to mention too, I mean, the way that you talk about your position and what you do at your company, it just sounds like a dream job, especially to recent grads. Like, you know, high energy, events, fun. Like, you guys are bringing the energy to the games, and it is a source of entertainment, you know. And here you are with this awesome career where, you know, you were faced with questions of people like, not so sure, what are you going to do in communications?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I used to always say that the Hartford Yard Goats is a dream job that I never knew that I had. It pushed me to every single box. I mean, I literally didn't know anything. Like, I had to, or I still do, but I have to create the lineup graphic or post about the lineup for every single game. So my first week, I got the sheet, and it was like all the guys' names and then these random numbers, like 1 through 9. And I was just like, what is this? And this connects me. He made me a sticky note of 1 means this, 2 is pitcher, 3 is first base, blah, 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 blah. Like, I was like walked through all of these things, and I went in like just knowing nothing and asking all of the questions. I went from a job that I had all the answers to then a job where I knew nothing and had to ask all the questions. And I think that, and this is just me, I just kind of realized this right now, but I think that job of knowing nothing really did prepare me for starting a business because I knew nothing. And I was like, if I can do that, I think I can do this. So it actually kind of translates pretty well. Wow, look at me. Snaps. But yeah.
I love it. I love when you can talk out loud and hear your self-realization. And you're like, wow, that was even cooler than I thought before.
Yep, exactly.
What would you say to somebody who is starting off and could be in your shoes, where they had no idea what to go or where to turn or to answer their question? What would you give them as a piece of advice?
The biggest thing is just to talk to people. Once COVID hit, the amount of people that I had in my LinkedIn DMs or Instagram DMs because it was suddenly cool to do a virtual coffee. I mean, I probably had 200 plus calls with random people within the first 6 months. Like, and I was just saying yes to everything. I was sharing my story, they were sharing theirs. I was kind of like giving and taking wherever I could. And I just learned how people were doing things differently, whether it was in the same state, different state, girl, guy, you know, older, younger, like there were just all these different things. And I really feel like COVID escalated and pushed the idea of sharing more about what your day-to-day looks like, because in the past, we didn't really talk about all of these things that are going on that we don't realize that we can or can't do. And I think that this social media piece is one where I didn't realize that, you know, if I only have X amount of clients at X amount of dollars, I can easily match my salary, if not more, and do this on my own and follow my rules, be myself, be happy with who I am, love how I'm showing up because I can wear what I want, do what I want. I mean, even like my little logo. So my company logo,
glasses.
Exactly, because I mean, so when COVID first started, I asked one of my friends from high school to just draw like a little picture of me because people were doing it and I just wanted one. I was like, this is so cool. And then once my business kind of kicked off, I was like, oh my gosh, I have no logo. Threw this up there for fun. Everyone's like, I love your logo. This is incredible. Like, how did you figure it out? And I was like, oh my gosh, like I didn't, but I think I just did. And people were telling me how they could connect, you know, they're like, oh my gosh, I relate so much, you know, end of the day, you still have all this stuff to do, throw your hair up, glasses on, contacts out, you know, just do it. And that's really what it represents. And I didn't intend it to, but when I was having him draw it, I was like, I know that I need glasses. I know that I need my hair up. And it's just so funny how it's all kind of connected. And then my favorite is that if I go to a meeting or anything, if my hair is up in a bun, it's like, oh, like you're so on brand. Like, look at you on brand. When really it's like, just got out of bed 5 minutes ago, but I need it. But so yeah, that's that.
Yeah, that's that authenticity. You can't listen. When you building a personal brand, you cannot steer away from that authenticity. It just makes life so much easier as a business owner, and it makes people a lot more comfortable. You know, we don't, you know, they're saying now we spend our money for experiences. So when people are really getting the authentic you, it's an experience.
Exactly.
Yeah, you've inspired me a little bit. I'm gonna get on IG after we get off here and talk about this a little bit.
Follow me. I'll follow you back.
Okay.
That's so awesome. Danielle, are you wearing your shirt? Is that one of your sweatshirts, your crew neck? Oh, so cute.
Yeah, I love them. They're so comfy. I have them in pink and black, and I only have them in size large and extra large. And people are like, oh, I'm a small. And I'm like, no, I'm also a small, but I'm going to wear a large. This is meant to be comfy. This is meant to be when you get home, take your bra off, put this on and just do your thing. And I love it. I always go back and forth with large and extra large because they're just so cozy.
Oh gosh, Dana, you're such a dose of inspiration. Keep rocking it. You're crushing it. How do you personally work through fear when you're taking these unknown steps? And do you feel anxiety, or how do you work through that?
Yeah. So fear and anxiety to me is so interesting because I feel like once COVID hit, there was all of those emotions that I haven't really felt before. And I was like, is this anxiety? Is this depression? Should I be calling someone? What's going on? And it's just for me, it was the lack of communication, the lack of face-to-face, the lack of all these things. So when it comes to if I if I'm like panicky or I'm kind of just like stuck in my shoes, I will go to Instagram or Twitter and I'll scroll and I'll see my friends and I'll see my family and I'd be like, okay, like, I have them, I'm cool, and kind of just kind of like kick myself back into it, or I'll just call someone. But I mean, when it comes to fear too, I think fear is just such an interesting thing, because if you really stop and you're like, what am I afraid of? Like, what is the worst that can happen? And you kind of play those out, it really does like make no sense. So like, for example, when I was debating between going to the Hartford Yard Goats or staying at my past job, I was like, what is the worst that can happen? I said, this guy that's been working in sports for X amount of years reached out to me out of X amount of people that have applied for this job and said, I believe that you can do this. And I was like, could I ask for a better situation? My boss understands who I am. He knows the negatives about my situation. I said, how could I turn this down? How could I be fearful of going to a job that I know that I can be 100% myself, 100% transparent, ask all the questions, and thrive because they want me to thrive? So I don't know, the word fear to me, it's just kind of stopping and thinking and reflecting. And I think it also goes back to how the idea of reflecting and overthinking freaks people out, or they think that overthinking is a bad thing. But really, by reflecting on situations, which really is kind of what my whole Instagram page is, it's just me overthinking everything and then making it into some life lesson for myself. But by taking that time to reflect, you're really understanding like who you are, what you're doing, what you align with, what you don't align with. If you're doing it for yourself, if you're doing it for your mom, for your dad, for whoever, like kind of breaking it down and just saying, what am I afraid of and why, and what's the worst that can happen?
Love it. Good piece of advice.
Yeah. What's the biggest thing you've realized on your journey?
Like my whole journey as up to like right now.
Yes.
I think that for a while I was like loving like the single girl swag. I don't need no man. I can do it all on my own, all that kind of stuff. And I think once I let myself say, I'm going to be open to help, I'm going to be open to sharing my weaknesses, I'm going to be open to being vulnerable, I want to share more about my thought process, which freaks some people out because people are like, why are you sharing so much? And I'm like, I'm not really sharing it for you, I'm sharing it for me. Back to the power of talking out loud. So I think really once I allowed people to help me, even thinking to like business, like I knew that once I made enough money to hire a bookkeeper, that I needed that help. I didn't want to be triple checking all the numbers and doing all these things. So I think really it's once I recognized the value in finding people that had the skills that I don't have and letting them be a part of what I'm doing for it to be successful, knowing that the mission that I'm on is bigger than just me as a person. And by bringing on these people, it's one, helping me, but two, it's extending my network that much further. And it's just really pushing my thoughts, my mission, what I'm doing, what I'm saying, how I just want to make this whole idea of social media positive. I want people to live this life where they like to wake up and go to work and work's not work and all those types of things. And I just feel like, I don't know, it's meant, this life is just meant to be shared. And I think that for a while I was just loving being by myself because I lived by myself. I was like, I can just go home, shut my door, no one has a key. And once I kind of got out of that phase, which I also think that everyone sort of needs that phase of like, I'm alone, I'm overthinking, I'm, by myself. Once I got past that, I really learned that there really is no limit, and whatever you choose to do is on you.
Oh, that's awesome. Yes. Gosh, that's so great. I love it. Life is meant to be shared, but you're right. You do have to go through different phases and, seasons, and you learn from them. And that's awesome. How can people connect with you? What do you offer? I know you are doing a full-time job and your business. So, are you maxed out with clients right now? Talk to us.
Yeah. So in general, connecting, I'm everywhere. I'm on every single social anything. I know some people are like, oh, I'm just on Facebook or whatever. But for me also, back to you too, Daphne, for like business stuff, I personally think being on all platforms, whether you're posting a lot or not, is helpful because if my only main platform that I use is Twitter and I search you and you don't exist, then I'm just like, we're friends for, you know, an hour and now I'm like, see you never. So just kind of being everywhere, but I'm everywhere at Danielle Chylinski. Twitter is the only one that's different. It's at D_Chylinski. But I also, I mean, my website, ChylinskiMedia.com. I have a personal website too, DanielleChylinski.com. All of my stuff for the most part that I'm still doing right now, business wise, is all listed on my website, dollars, prices. Also talking about money. Once you talk about money too, I feel like it kind of takes the awkwardness out of things and just kind of, you know, sharing what you're thinking in that sense. So if anyone also wants to just talk through like money situations or how to talk to people about money in terms of what you want to commit to dollar wise for anything like business wise, I'm always down to make that not awkward. But I mean, business wise too, like in terms of new clients, I'm still doing like one-on-one business strategy consultation calls. I also am taking on clients still for helping post regularly. So I no longer do anything in terms of helping with engagement because I realized after so long that it's not my place. It is the business owner's place. It's the person's place. I can help you post consistently and help you get your messaging and your captions and all that kind of stuff out there. But really, if you want it to grow and thrive the way that you expect it to, it has to come from you. It has to be you commenting, replying, you know, throwing up random Instagram story or things like that. But I am helping. For some people, I do 1 post a week, 2 posts a week, 3 posts a week, every day a week. Kind of just depends on what you want to do or what your budget looks like. But I mean, and I'm always down to talk too. I keep adding random things to my service list. People are like, I need this, like, what about this? And I hate to turn people away because I just want to help. But yeah, that's me.
Awesome. All right, before I ask the infamous question, Daphne, do you have anything else on your mind?
I don't.
Okay, I can see you're
Danielle
soaking it all in.
Yeah, I'm taking it in, and Danielle has pretty much answered everything before I could, like, the questions I did have. I'm like, okay, she answered that. So,
I love it. So Danielle, the infamous Red Brawl question. So when we talk about the Red Brawl, it's like a concept, it's a symbol, it's an idea. It's something that you know that you have internally, whether you're showing it or not. It's something that you can look back on a situation. It's like your modern day superwoman cape. And that moment will help to carry you through all these other moments. And sometimes they're big Red Brawl moments, sometimes they're small. What is a Red Brawl moment that comes to mind for you when you can look back and you can be like, yeah, I made it through that. And you kind of mentioned one earlier, but I made it through that and here I go again. So what would that be for you?
I feel like I have a million every single day.
Awesome.
But one that's kind of random and sticks out to me, I think, is working in sports and recognizing that you've been in professional settings before where you get dressed, do your hair, do your makeup, all the things, you love your outfit. And then working in sports, it's like you're pulling tarp, you're sweating, you're running around the entire game, you're, you know, trying to find kids for the baby goat race, but then they back out, so you're trying to find more, and you're just like, it's just like madness. So I think, like, for me, like moment wise, I just really think to all of the games that I've worked at the Hartford Yard Goats back in 2019, it was 70 home games. So I worked 70 home games there. And I just think to all of the times where I was sweaty, I was out of my comfort zone, I was wearing khakis, I was wearing a polo, I had a name tag on, and I was just like, I never thought that I would ever have a job where I had to wear like a uniform and a name tag, like after I was out of college. So I think for me, like all of those little moments, all 70 of them plus this year too, recognizing that regardless of how I look or how I'm presented, I know inside that everything that I'm giving is fully me and I'm fully embodying this like normal average person. I think when people think about working and like sweating and like going home to like run to the shower, like that's not ideal. But just thinking about all the things of the different ways that I've gone out of like the traditional view of what working should look like in terms of a full-time job and just owning it and like laughing and joking about, you know, the sweatiness, or like we used to go out to the bars like almost every single day after games, like regardless of how tired we were, it was like we knew that we had to go and be together and have a drink and just like decompress. So I think really for me, it's all of those games and all those times where I was just like, am I actually doing this right now? And just having those all build up. And I think that's really gotten me to where I am today. And it goes back to the whole messy bun thing. Like, I never thought that I'd want to have a business, but two, that it would be a picture of me in the messy bun.
Oh, that's so good. And it comes all back to your authentic self as well. And I think that's such a great example because I can personally relate to it. I work in the event world and literally I am drenched in sweat just for load in. And then I have to change clothes to manage the event, to put it on. And then we're back to sweatiness afterwards. And by the time you get through the door, you're like, what just happened? And you know, sometimes you look down at yourself.
Right.
Yeah,
Fix your makeup, dry shampoo,
yes.
extra hairspray.
Oh, you get really quick at doing the quick change and a little bit of the messy bun that you can make work. So yeah, I feel you.
I love it.
Well, we wrap all of our shows with a quote for our guests. And the one that we picked for you tonight was, when we're growing up, there are all sorts of people telling us what to do, when really what we need is space to work out who to be. Elliot Page. And I think you are such a beautiful example of listening to yourself, continuing to learn more about yourself, and following that, creating your own path. And that's so inspiring to women and men of all ages. So thank you for sharing your story and coming on the Red Brawl Project. We absolutely loved our time with you.
Yes, thank you, Danielle.
Thanks for having me. Can I spend every night like this? This is so fun. I'm usually in bed by 9, but now I'm like all hyped up.
Absolutely. You can come back anytime. And you have your own podcast too. So I want to talk about that. We didn't mention it, but Coffee with D, right?
Yep. Coffee Date with D. Yep. On Apple and Spotify and all the things.
Awesome. So yes, you can get definitely out to all of our listeners. You can get your dose of Danielle in many different ways, and her social media, as she mentioned, is awesome. It positively influences herself sometimes. So go and check her out, connect with her. Thank you for listening. Share Danielle's story with somebody, a friend that needs it in their life, because stories hold so much power. We appreciate you all for being here. You can catch all of our guest Red Brawl Project guest stories on the redbrawlproject.com. Or our YouTube channel. So if you want to watch, or you can listen on our podcast. Thank you guys. Have a great night.
Thank you. Night.
Bye.